By 1942, America's at war, and our nation has changed significantly by going to war. Our military doubles in size. You have millions of women entering the workforce. We still go to war with a segregated army, but African Americans launch a double V campaign arguing for victory against fascism abroad and victory against racism at home. And one of the points we wanted to make to visitors is it's in 1942 that Americans learn about what the Nazis call the final solution. Americans will hear Edward R. Murrow in December of 1942 saying millions of human beings, most of them Jews, are being gathered up with ruthless efficiency and murdered. So we can't say that Americans didn't know. We didn't have all the details. But if you think about what's the crux of the story is that the Nazis are deporting Jews to the East for mass murder. That story we had, and that story was reported, even if all the details of it were not known. It doesn't mean that all Americans believed it. And Americans are asked in January of 1943 by Gallup, so just 2 months after this news goes public, they're asked, do you believe the stories that 2 million Jews, at that point they asked 2 million Jews, have been murdered? And the results are about half and half. 48% of Americans believe that it's true. In this animated map, we're mapping two things on each other: the Nazi killing process and the movement of the Allied troops. So you see here that by D-Day, Nazi Germany's murdered more than 5 million Jews already. The blue on this map, the swastikas are the 6 major killing centers that the Nazis are operating, and the blue is the advance of the Allied troops. And it was important to us in this exhibition to put the timelines of the Holocaust and the war together. So when news becomes public in November of 1942 about what the Nazis call the final solution, that's the moment that our troops are just landing in North Africa in Operation Torch. We don't have the military means at that moment to reach the death camps, to reach the killing centers. As you just saw, by June of 1944, when US troops and other Allied troops are finally landing on the coast of Normandy, that's very late in the Holocaust. More than 5 million Jews are dead. So when we ask in this exhibition what more could have been done, we're trying to be very careful about showing what was militarily possible. We frequently debate, or historians in this field frequently debate the question about whether the rail lines leading to Auschwitz should have been bombed, or the camp itself, or the crematoria at Auschwitz-Birkenau should have been bombed. And we take up that question later, but what this map is supposed to do is provide a foundation of thinking about what was militarily possible. That certainly wasn't militarily possible in 1942. By 1944, it's absolutely possible, but the US government decides not to do it. And we're looking in this last section of the exhibition at individuals who are trying to pressure the US government to take action. One of the great stories is of this man, Jan Karski, who works for the Polish underground. He's about 27 years old, or in his late 20s in 1943. And the Polish underground smuggles him into the Warsaw Ghetto. And he also witnesses the transit of Jews to Belzec, one of the killing centers. 9 months later, he's in the Oval Office, talking to FDR about this. You see here the log, FDR's appointment book, that the Polish ambassador is coming to the White House with Jan Karski. Karski meets with FDR, tells him about these atrocities that he's witnessed, and pleads with FDR at the end of the meeting, what can I tell the Polish people? And FDR says, in effect, tell them we shall win the war. And that speaks directly to US government priorities during the war. The priority is always the defeat of Nazism and not the rescue of Jews. The US government unfortunately sees what we would today think of as humanitarian missions as a diversion from our war aims rather than central to our war aims. The government's policy can be summed up with the phrase rescue through victory, that you stop the killing by stopping the killers. Breckinridge Long, the head of the visa division for the State Department, comes back into the story. Long goes to Congress in November of 1943, and he tells them that the State Department had already admitted 580,000 refugees. That claim is absolutely false. We had admitted roughly 200,000 refugees. And Long goes to Congress. This is secret testimony, and he says that we were bound by immigration laws. We did everything we could possibly do. Congressman Emanuel Seller from Brooklyn calls out Long as a liar. And asked Long to quit. He calls him out for saying, for lying about the number of refugees that had been let in. He has this fantastic statement in December of 1943. If men of the temperament and philosophy of Breckinridge Long continue in control of the Immigration Administration, we may as well take down that plaque from the Statue of Liberty and black out the lamp beside the golden door. He's speaking to this tension that's so central to this exhibition, the tension between American ideals, thinking of ourselves as a land of refuge and a nation of immigrants, but at this moment of crisis, being so closed to immigrants and to rescue of refugees. The Treasury Department, lawyers in the Treasury Department also discover that the State Department is actively obstructing information about the murder of Jews from making it to intended recipients in the United States and actively obstructing aid. They go to their boss, the Secretary of the Treasury, Henry Morgenthau, with a report that they call a report on, their words are, the acquiescence of this government in the murder of the Jews, the U.S. government. And they ask Morgenthau to take that information to FDR. Morgenthau does in this report. He changes the title and calls it Personal Report to the President, but the information here is harrowing. The first line, one of the greatest crimes in history, the slaughter of the Jewish people in Europe, is continuing unabated. They are asking FDR for a refugee policy. The United States government didn't have a refugee policy. They take this report to FDR in January of 1944, and on January 22nd of 1944, he issues an executive order that establishes the War Refugee Board. The War Refugee Board is an interagency effort between the State Department, the War Department, and the Treasury Department, and their charge is to rescue Jews, as long as it doesn't impede the war effort. And that, as long as it doesn't impede the war effort, is a key provision and a key fact that will be debated and that will have deep implications for the remaining year plus of the war. The board coordinates with refugee organizations. They work with international refugee aid organizations. They aid people like Raoul Wallenberg, the Swedish diplomat who's so well known for going into Hungary and issuing visas and protection papers to Hungarian Jews.